What up, y'all, and welcome to Watkins Glen International for the first race in the 2022 NRSL Hankook Tyres V8 Supercar Challenge. These aren't your conventional V8 supercars that you see in Australia and New Zealand. These are the American supercars. I'm joined once again by Vince Freeze. It has been about a month since you've heard us, but for us, as far as recording purposes go, I'd say it's been about 3.
Yeah, man, it has been about 3, but a new season, a new series beckons upon us. It's going to be an interesting series, though. It's only 8 races. It's quick, it's fast, it's flowing, and man, Watkins Glen with these cars, yeah, we're going to be in for a fast, hot pace. I think the biggest thing here is going to be tire management, believe it or not, towards the end of the run, and the draft. I think the draft could be critical in the first 3-4 laps of the race. And now let's get to the starting lineup in new places, new faces in a way.
On pole is Jessica Shelton with Audra Baranowskis to her left side, so a female front row. Row 2, Jonathan Zorlin, now two-time Digital Storm Cup Series champion with Kev Shearer to his left. Jesse Turner and Seth Cole in row 3. Derek Hamill and Christian Vargas, row 4. With Diego Yepes and William Brock in row 5. As we go through the rest of the starting order, Charles Sanford won the race here 2 years ago in the first season. We'll see if he can make that two races won here at the track with these cars. They are going to be flying. It is only a 5-gear setup now for these cars, unlike the 6-gear setup we used 2 years ago. But these drivers were running 104s, 103s in practice and qualifying. With the overcast condition, we're expecting them to go even faster.
Drivers, start your engines!
So we've got 23 laps of action, Vince. I'm thinking these drivers should have to pit about lap 13, 14, maybe earlier. They might go just halfway, 11 to 13, somewhere in there. Tire wear, I believe, will be around the 2-second mark. But it's really going to come down to the setup and the driver's way to use that setup because these cars are tricky to handle.
Yeah, buddy, Watkins Glen, new season upon us. All-female front row. Let's get it at Watkins Glen, baby. We're green flag racing.
You can just see how fast these cars accelerate right out the gate, already up to 150 into turn 1.
There's the champ underneath Shelton.
Oh,
Zorlin.
I forgot to change out the banner. Oh well. We'll fix that for the next race.
They rocket away past the S's into the bus stop. Chicanes Jonathan's rolling with about 2/10 lead.
Almost 200 miles an hour, too. As they get through cleanly. Zorlin in the lead, Shelton in second place. Baranowskis in third. Used to seeing this Jack Daniels car with Cole Deaver behind the wheel in the number 3 in the Cup Series, so want to say Cole Deaver, but it's Audra.
Peeking, but he's going to tuck back in line as they start to file out single file.
Kev Shearer right on the bumper of Audra as the top 2 of Shelton and Zorlin are pulling away. These cars have really good brakes on them, too. They can just stop on a dime. Really lets them send it into the corner.
And Sheldon's about to... Oh, nope, just peeks for a second.
Oh, some contact between Audra and Kev Shearer. They're going to wreck. They're in the wall.
That's the big one.
Jesse Turner's involved. Derek Hamill. Diego Yepes. The one of Seth Cole. That was a pretty big incident right there. That's going to take all those drivers out of the race. These cars don't take a lot of physical cosmetic damage, but if you hit the wall hard enough, you will break something inside mechanically.
Pez looks pretty good, but I think he'll definitely suffer down the straights.
And at the back of the field, you got Lucas Catano, Bradley Ream, Alexander Rowe, Donovan Cage, R.J. Bishop, Peter Onjak, James Ellison in the 5. Sorlin was a last-second decision, so he is in the 83 for that reason. Made a deal there with Red Bull. Laura Chung in the 18, Sam Young 88, Rob Evans in the 48. You know them as Amanda in the past. You can still see the smoke here through the turn out of the bus stop. Look at all those skid marks. Keith Rich, the Rich father-son duo, they are in Mercedes cars here for this event. Keith in the 63 and Andrew in the 44. As they've actually started up a new team for the Cup Series, Rich Racing, and they are running Ford, so new team on the grid for next year. See, just inside the top 10 is the other Red Bull Honda of Logan York. Seeing some new manufacturers here in the series, such as Honda, Ferrari, and Mercedes, as Baranowskis will come back onto the racetrack next to William Brock. Allison Liliera, I believe is pronounced. Currently up to 8th. Christian Vargas, good showing in 7th right now behind Zach Flickinger in 6th. As Dylan Young looks to pass Samet Oskin for 4th place. Zachary Fitzwater Sr. has started to pull away from the field in 3rd, and he is slowly closing in on the top 2 of Sorlin and Shelton. As out of the race is the 24 of Kev Shear, the 1 of Seth Cole, the 16 of Derek Hamill, and the 97 of Jesse Turner. So a rough start to them on the season.
Fitzwater knows his way or thing about a road course, so I expect him to start making a gap as Shelton goes a little wide, and Fitzwater is closing the gap now by 0.8 on that lap.
And you know the funny thing is, Vince, is Fitzwater, he hasn't won yet in these cars, and these are his cars, right? This is his style of racing from Australia. Didn't win in season 1, and we know he's got 3 road course wins in the Jerky Pro Truck Series, but never has gotten it done in the Cup Series. As now Young and Zach Flickinger are leaning, and almost more calamity there coming out of the bus stop. But yeah, Fitzy is hauling the mail right now. Let's actually go on board with the number 4.
This right-hander here, as he goes up the front stretch.
Just watch from 96 miles an hour all the way down the front straightaway to 180 in the turn 1.
Time through the curbs here, the rumble. Now he's going to go into the exit point of the S's. Slides that around. Down to the left. Back to the right. Keeps under control. Now he's going to do less steering inputs, try to get a draft off the Shelton. And run a straight line as you see the speed increasing close to 200. Before we enter the brake zone. That's a lap around Watkins Glen.
More or less, indeed. Still closing about 0.4 on Shelton that lap, but a little slower than the race leader of Zorlin. Not sure if I mentioned it already, but our Season 1 champion 2 years ago was Rob Evans, and they did so without winning a race. Came down to Rob Evans, DJ Curtis, and one other that I cannot recall. So 6 laps into this race. Yepes is still pulling off 104s. If a driver is dangerously slow, we will ask them to park. Trying to see if anyone has been able to make any gains. Rob Evans just getting by Vince Freeze for 18th. Charles Sanford hasn't gone anywhere from his starting position. Still middle of the pack there, 15th. Audra is also running about 104s as Andrew Rich looks to get by her. Logan York has fallen out of the top 10. Richard Johnson has climbed into the top 10. Richard has run one-offs before for the All-Star race weekend. He's never run a full season in Cup or Jerky Pro, but somehow, some way, he was convinced to come out here and run a special number 20 Chevrolet Camaro instead of the typical Joe Gibbs Toyota. So a little bit of a special deal here for Richard Johnson. Saw Vargas in 7th earlier. He's down to 9th. Actually, make that 8th. Johnson is up to 9th. Brock is down to 10th. As Liliera is up to 7th, looking for 6th on Oskin, as Zach Flickinger just took 5th place. Fitzwater is continuing to close the gap on Zorlin and Shelton. He should be about caught up by the time the pit stop cycle begins. So we're seeing about a second of fall off.
What I talked about in the pre-race, man, that late run, how you manage those tires, and I think Fitzwater is sniffing blood. But Jonathan's rolling in clean air. I think if I'm him, I do the undercut. Get a little bit of a gap and let those guys force their hand on the next lap for sure.
Now in season 1, I'm not quite sure I remember what points format we used, but we've got a bit of a unique one here this year. So the difference in points from 32nd up to 11th per position jump is 1 point each, but the jump from 11th to 10th is a 2-point jump. So it's a 2-point jump all the way up to 6th, then a 3-point jump to 5th, a 4-point jump to 4th, and then I believe it is a 5-point jump to 3rd, 6-point jump to 2nd, and a 10-point jump to win. So the further up in the top 10 you finish, the more valuable it's going to be, especially if you're on the podium, Vince.
Yeah, it's all about the podiums here, and it should be. This is an international series. We are going started in America. We finish off with a nice international swing. It's important to get that flair going, especially with the podiums being more, and this season being such a short season as well, where everything's fast and heavy.
Yes, indeed. Full schedule after this race here today. Pocono, Richmond, the lone short track on the schedule. Pensacola Superspeedway, which we know will be insane. And then we go international over to Dubai, Pukekohe, Road 1, and then we come back to the States to finish off at Papyrus.
Telling you what, man, Fitzwater is now starting to get that slipstream, especially coming into this bus stop in turn 1. I think he's there. I think if I'm Fitzwater now, I'd do the same thing as Zorlin, and Shelton I would think would go the overcut route here, just based off of past history. But we'll see. Things can change.
It's looking pretty good for Fitzwater to get a road course win here in this NRSL series that is not in a truck. Shelton makes a move on Zorlin but can't get it to bite. Zorlin leaves the door open, and Shelton will get to his outside. That's going to let Fitzwater close right on in.
Oh, that drag being left. What a photo finish, by the way. There. That drag
and they're giving it to Shelton. I'm actually curious what the margin was there. 4 1/1000ths.
I think a little side draft, though, should prevent it. Yep, there's Fitzwater, and Zorlin's got a little bit of a gap now, about 2 car lengths.
So Zorlin clears, but that held them both up about half a second. That lets Fitzwater close it right on in. Meanwhile, Dylan Young, Zach Flickinger, Liliera, Richard Johnson, and Oskin are the next 5 drivers that are showing pace. Ace Rogers is up to 9th. And then not really seeing anybody else move forward from behind him.
That's impressive, though, for 4th, real quick, man, from 4th to, let's say, 8th, because that accident really did have drivers check up, and checkups are more in this series with how speeds are.
Yeah, let's not forget we had an accident happen right at the front of the top 5, behind the top 2, and that cleaned out, 6 good cars, potentially. 6 good cars potentially there. So no idea how those drivers would have performed here today, racing with the top 3. But fastest lap in the first stint belongs to Samet Oskin, a 102.881.
window's open, buddy. We'll see what happens next time around.
And we actually have James Ellison down a pit road already. So the first one, the pit road, is something has happened to Peter Onjak and Baranowskis. So that'll be something to look at afterwards. Ellison stop is scheduled, no damage on the 5, and Diego Yepes looks like he was involved as well. RJ Bishop, Donovan Cage, Lucas Catano, Bradley Ream also far off the pack. Rob Evans, I think, has some damage. So a lot of something just went on, and it looks like it came off the final turn. Zach Flickinger and Richard Johnson will be the next two into pit road. I see Ace Rogers, Logan York, and William Brock coming in as well. So pit road is open here on lap 12. But so far, the leaders have elected to stay out.
Could be a pit stop duel between these three if they all come in at the same time. But that's a smart move by the 23. And yeah, man, I think another accident here must have created more separation. That's why a lot of the back of the pack came in. I think damage repair. Well, we'll see also how damage repair works too. If it's more with these cars, we'll find out.
Looks like, whoops. Looks like the 19 is finished. So Bradley Ream's day is over. Peter Onjak's done. Baranowskis is done. Seeing pretty standard stops out of everyone who just pit, and the top three will come down together. RJ Bishop about an 8-second extension for repairs. So Dylan Young, Liliera are the next two closest to the top three. Christian Vargas, Andrew Rich, Charles Sanford had also yet to pit. So Zach Flickinger leads those that had pit. James Ellison, I think, gained a good amount of track position, pitting on his own first. Looks like Diego Yepes also done for the day. So that leaves us with 24 cars on track.
Bitsy.
Shelton and Fitzy will be side by side here coming off the pit lane.
We'll get Flickinger.
And Fitzy will get Shelton, but look at Zach Flickinger up to second place and charging towards Sorlin.
Oh yeah, he'll be right there. Cold tires, especially on these cars, it's hard to get the grip and acceleration. The contact patch is just not there in the beginning. But we'll see what happens if Flickinger can make the move, because he is in no man's land right now.
James Ellison's undercut gets him into the top 10. Right now, running order looks like Sorlin in the lead, Flickinger in second, Fitzwater third, Shelton fourth, Dylan Young fifth, Richard Johnson sixth, Liliera seventh, Ellison eighth, looking for that position, with Samet Oskin ninth and Ace Rogers rounding out the top 10. Ellison's got the heated, warmed-up tires, as you said, Vince, and I think he is going to get the spot on Liliera here for now.
Gone though.
Richard Johnson will take fifth away from Dylan Young. As you mentioned, though, Sorlin is gone. Shelton's going to put a move on Fitzwater. In contact there between them. They got rid of that grass over there out of the bus stop so these guys wouldn't slide through the grass back onto the track. So now you got to wonder what adjustments were made as we come to what'll be 8 laps to go. Is there any way Flickinger can close the gap with 1 lap older tires? Remember, there's not a ton of fall off. 103.3 to a 103.3 that time by Flickinger faster by 38 1/1000ths.
Fitzy wide.
But Fitzy and Shelton are racing it up for third, and Shelton's going to take the position. As there was another incident up the bus stop. Might have involved RJ Bishop. Can't tell. Thinking it was. As Rob Evans, last season's champion, up to 13th place. No damage on that 48.
It could have been Allison, buddy, because I think Allison and Ellison were battling a little
Oh.
bit earlier. Could be
Yeah, where did the 6 go?
back of the pack.
There she is. She is down to 19th. So something occurred there with the 6 and the 5, but Ellison, he appears unharmed. He is still in 7th. Shelton, that time by, runs her fastest lap of the race, a 1:02.974. Oh, but she goes wide. That might open the door for Fitzwater. A lot of drivers running 102s right now. Dylan Young trying to challenge Richard back for 5th. Fastest lap on the race belongs to the 63, driven by Keith Rich, a 1:02.708, and he is up into the top 10.
Wickinger's starting to close, man. That draft is playing vital. The thing is, where's the cutoff point? I think lap 20 is where it will be critical because those tires will start to peak a little bit for Jonathan Zorlin, whereas Flickinger might be peaking right now with those tires. It's a little minimal, like you said, minimal fall, about 0.2, but that's enough. Hundreds of seconds mean a lot here.
Just think at the end of this past Cup season, Zach Flickinger broke the winless streak for himself in the Cup Series, winning at Papyrus. Papyrus, more of a super speedway road course, but Watkins Glen, kind of much of the same. Obviously, there's not as much banking in the turns here as at Papyrus, but not as many turns, so makes it a little bit more of a speedway race, or high-speed road course race, as you could say. And see Zach Flickinger 198 there down the end of that straightaway. As Richard and Dylan Young are side by side rubbing doors. Young will take 5th. Zach Flickinger continues to close the gap on Jonathan Zorlin.
Yeah, I think we're starting to get into that debate of lateral grip versus who's trimmed out. I think Flickinger's a little bit more trimmed out, whereas I could see Sector 2. Zorlin seems more laterally gripped and mechanically gripped to handle the bus stop, but you can see the gap is now starting to stabilize 200 or 300s each time a lap.
Just want to say off a random thought that if someone clicks on this video, they're going to think this is a Napa Truck Series alternate universe where the cars are trucks and the trucks are cars. It's a bit of an April Fool's joke in a way, too, here in what'll be November. But as you said, Vince, it has stabilized between Zorlin and Zach Flickinger. I think Flickinger's tires are starting to go here. It is only a 1-lap difference, but that can matter here at the end of this thing. We'll be hitting 4 to go. Shelton has pulled away from Fitzwater, but has been unable to close any distance. Meanwhile, Ellison looking to challenge Johnson for 6th. As it looks like Keith Rich might be closing in to take a 9th away from Ace Rogers.
Keith has the fastest lap of the day, too. His second run, he's closes. There's the battle with Ellison.
Ellison on the oldest tires out of anybody, but that's not stopping him from making moves here. He's going to take 6th place away from Richard Johnson.
Yep, Dylan Young went a little wide, too. He's going to have a nice run here down this back.
James Ellison will be going back to the Jerky Pro Truck Series for 2023. Looking to chase a championship that he felt was taken from him back in his final season back in, I think it was 2020. Might have been 2021. No, I think it was 2020.
Yeah,
So,
20. It was 20.
Yep. So Ellison back to the Truck Series. Adam Flickinger, Peter Onjak will be joining him. So it's sure to be a stacked field of competition against the likes of Sam Young, Jack James, Donovan Cage, and more. Shelton is not closing in. She is about the same as Sorlin. Sorlin just ran a 103.666. That might be some bad luck.
Oh,
But
voodoo.
Zach Flickinger not really closing the gap here. I think he's getting him on the straightaways a little bit. You can kind of see the draft down here on that straightaway, but I think in the turn, Zorlin has a little bit more grip now. Let's take one more run through the back of the field. William Brock was top 10 earlier. He's now 18th. As nobody is close to fighting for a top 10 spot here outside of the top 10. The gap from Vargas to Keith is 5 seconds. Just with 2 laps to go. Keith Rich might have a shot here to take 9th from Ace Rogers. Oskin might have a shot at 7th here on Richard. He's closing a little bit there. As for the rest of these top 5 guys, it looks pretty stable. Shelton pulling away, pretty much has 3rd on lock. So all eyes now go to the race lead. Flickinger gaining 0.5 tenth that time by, but he's really going to have to pick it up here in this next lap and a half if he wants to deny the Digital Storm Cup Series champion a win here. Just think, Vince, Sorlin won the season finale at Chicagoland, and now a month later he's about to pick up right where he left off.
Yeah, man, Big Mo, that's it. Big momentum just carries you to a new season, new place, doesn't matter. Still Jonathan Zorlin, the 2-time champ. Here we go, buddy. White flag, though. Does Flickinger got anything as we enter the bell lap?
That time by down another 0.5 tenth. But it might not be enough. And it's just crazy to think, too, Vince, that Zorlin didn't drive these style of cars 2 years ago. Obviously, these American V8 supercars are a bit more similar to the Cup car, so that could be why he has adapted so well here in just one weekend. And it has been incredible to watch Zach Flickinger try and do something. Great race, too, for Jessica Shelton.
Yeah, but as they exit the carousel, Flickinger tried, man, but I think it's going to be Jonathan Zorlin as they enter this left-hander.
2 turns to go. And it was quite the chaotic race. But as they come through the final corner, it'll be Jonathan Zorlin picking up where he left off in the Cup Series. He will win at Watkins Glen International here in the V8 Supercar Challenge. That is the Hankook Tyres V8 Supercar Challenge. Zach Flickinger, 2nd place, and Jessica Shelton rounding out the podium. Fitzwater looked really strong early, but they must have made a wrong change or didn't make a change on that pit stop. They finished 4th. Dylan Young rounds out the top 5 in 5th with James Ellison, Richard Johnson, Sametta Oskin, Ace Rogers, and Keith Rich, the top 10. Interesting to point out that after the pit cycle was finished, Keith Rich was about 10 seconds back. He gained about 1.5 seconds on the race leader. So results are official. But we have a lot of incidents to look over, so let's get to it, Vince.
Let's go.
Taking another look at that first accident. See, Turner was right on the bumper of Baranowski's, and then Baranowski's just kind of sent it too far into the bus stop. Swings wide with Kev Shear, and right there contact is made. And they were not even, and they were almost 4 wide right here, and Audra just slowly gets turned to the wall, and Kev's going to clip it at a bad angle. Nowhere for Derek Hamill to go. Turner barely gets clipped. Same with Seth Cole and Yepes. They were all innocent bystanders. And Hamill and Turner go flying towards the tires. These were some heavy impacts. Hamill hit it head on.
Another hit there.
So tough break for all of these drivers. Let's take an onboard or two. On board with Seth Cole. Just a nowhere for the road course ace to go. On board with Baranowskis. You can just see right away that she completely missed the entrance to the bus stop. Tough break for her race there at the beginning. So this happened right as James Ellison went to pit. Ellison looks like he's going to stay on track, then he turns it hard right to get down to the pit access lane. Audra goes to turn for the corner. Ellison sent it in there, and it takes out Baranowskis. So just a driver miscommunication there. Happened so fast, nothing you could do there. And then Audra's car is going to bounce back onto the track here. And she's trying to get it back going, backing up. And Peter Onjak had nowhere to go. Hard hit there into the back of the 7 back tires off the ground. Bradley Ream, RJ Bishop, Donovan Cage, and Lucas Catano had nowhere to go. And it was on from there. Let's take an onboard here with Audra one more time. On board with Baranowskis. Hard hit there, and then tries to get it to pit road, but hits the barrels. On board with Diego Yepes. Missed on how he got into this wreck, and yep, that did not work out. Looking at the last incident, Liliera sent it on James Ellison, racing him for position, and just kind of wrecked herself off of him there. Goes around coming up the S's. Sametta Oskin's going to do some great evasive driving here. And I think she just spins it around and gets it back going. And that was indeed the case. Oh, Logan York about got a piece there. And then it checked up Rob Evans, William Brock, and more. Well, that was it. Your race winner today was the 83 of Jonathan Zorlin. We'll see you guys next week for Pocono.